Life can be unpredictable at times, and you never know what's going to happen next. In these photos, the people you will see did not know that it would be their last photo. And some photos show some of the most evil people known to man. These photos have creepy backstories, and these are the mysterious photos from around the internet. In 1976, when they captured this family photo together at their home of 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, they had no idea that this would become one of America's most talked about horror stories. Above is the DeFeo family: John, Allison, Mark, Don, Ronald Jr. Their parents, Ronald and Louise, are not pictured. The only surviving member of the family is now Butch. At around 6:30 p.m., Butch burst into the local bar screaming, "You gotta help me. I think my mother and father are shot." When the police arrived at the family home, every member of the family had been shot in their sleep. After hours of police interrogation, it was discovered that Butch had shot all of his loved ones in cold blood. He told the police that once he started, he couldn't stop and it went too fast. The case since became known as the Amityville Horror Story. On July 14, 2014, a regular international flight flying from Amsterdam, known as Flight mszDT, was shot down after contact was lost, killing all 283 passengers and 15 crew members on board. A Russian-made missile over eastern Ukraine had been fired at the aircraft. The perpetrators were likely unaware that the plane had lost signal and was carrying domestic passengers. Just hours before the incident, 15-year-old Gary Slock and his mother, Petra Langyeld, posted this selfie on social media. They were on board MH17 and traveling to a resort for single parents and their children. A statement from their surviving family members said, Gary and his mother, Petra, were on their way to Malaysia to have the dream holiday of their life. Sadly, they never got the chance to fulfill that dream. But his story and his last picture tell you how dreams of many people with wonderful lives ahead of them have been wrecked. This is the last moment captured of the infamous Beatles band member, John Lennon, who was signing an autograph to David Chapman, who murdered him about an hour later. This surely is one of those photos with the creepiest backstories ever. Who knew this would be the last time we will be seeing John Lennon alive? And the person that we seen him with is the person who killed him. This might seem like a normal photograph. To be honest, it's not normal at all. The lady in the middle in this picture is actually dead. It was normal culture back in the 19th century for the Americans and Europeans to take pictures with their deceased loved ones. This is for sure one of those creepy pictures, one of the creepiest pictures with backstories that is equally spine-chilling. During the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, people who were killed left there what they called as a permanent nuclear shadows. The thermal radiations are what they stated to be the reason behind the formation of the shadows. These are really haunting and creepy pictures, with backstories that are definitely horrifying due to the after effect that the bombings left. In 1904, 24-year-old Osei Sneed was administered a lethal overdose by her own family so they could collect $32,000 of insurance money. For unknown reasons, Osei was hated by her mother ever since she was born. When Osei fell pregnant and gave birth to her daughter, her mother told her that the baby had died, then kept her drugged on morphine and forced her to stay in bed. The reality was the baby had been adopted. When Osei's family had finally killed her, they told the doctor who visited the home that it was a suicide, even faking a note. Her family members were eventually caught of their sinister crimes. They were found guilty of administering a lethal overdose, faking a suicide note, and cashing out on fraudulent life insurance claims. There were a few killers in the world as frightening as John Wayne Gacy. During the 1970s, in Chicago, he lured 14 young men and boys into his quiet home and tortured them before killing them. He then hid the bodies in the crawl space under his home. Married with a wife and 2 young children, they were unaware of his horrific crimes. The reason why he got away with the murder within the community was because everyone loved him. Known as Pogo the Clown, he dressed in full costume just to entertain families and even met with the mayor, who thanked him for all the joy that he spread. In 1994, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. Before his death, one of his last sinister quotes was, "The dead won't bother you. It's the living. It's the living you have to worry about." On Valentine's Day 1971, 19-year-old Jesse McBain and his girlfriend, 20-year-old Patricia Mann, went to a Valentine's Day dance. The picture shown was on that night, and they were never seen alive again. When they failed to return to their dorms, their concerned roommates called the police. McBain's close friends told the police, "I knew immediately. I just got the sickest feeling in my stomach. Something terrible had happened. She was a good girl, and she always went by the rules." Then days later, a man found both of their bodies in the woods nearby. Their hands had been tied behind their backs with thick ropes. They had both been tortured to death side by side. Detectives never found who tortured and killed the couple. The case, still to this day, remains unsolved. Known as one of Britain's most sinister serial killer couples, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley earned the name of Moore's murderers after murdering 5 victims in the 1960s. They both met when working at the same chemical plant and quickly realized they shared an appetite for cold-blooded killing. Their victims, one a girl aged only 16 years old, were lured to Saddleworth Moor, usually through trusting Hindley, as she was a woman. Then she strangled them. Hindley was often seen carrying the cord she used to strangle one victim, delighted by the thought that nobody knew of her crimes. This photo shown was taken by Brady. He captured the moment that Hindley was stood over the grave belonging to a victim. She smiles at the camera, sinister-like. She died when she was 60 years old, suffering from a heart attack as she was behind bars.